This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It's Thursday, and welcome to it. And a windy Thursday it is, especially for pretty much anybody south of a line from, say, Big Rapids to Bad Axe. Anybody south of Big Rapids and Mount Pleasant and so forth, anybody south of there is going to be in for a big blow today. The hardest hit areas will be in places like Benton Harbor, South Haven, Muskegon, Lansing, and Jackson are in that zone. Coldwater sitting on the edge there. Other areas like Flint, Pontiac, you could be in a zone with 50-mile-an-hour gusts, but that there's an area between basically South Haven, Lansing, and Jackson in the southern part of the state here, where wind gusts could top 65 miles an hour. And you know what that means? Down trees and down power lines and so forth, so be careful out there. Vehicles with high profiles, be very careful on north-south roads because, again, these wind gusts of 60 to 65 miles an hour, maybe more, could hang around for the next 24 hours. You know, could hang around until Friday. And I guess we'll see. The greatest risk in West Michigan, in the western part, will be up until about 8 o'clock this morning, but I guess we'll keep an eye on it. So there you go. There's a little bit of weather information for you. It's going to be windy today. Now, you know what it's like to sit in this chair. Let me tell you what it's like to sit in this chair. It's like I'm the one guy who's here to fix the Michigan roads all by myself. I've got to run around and fix potholes and correct problems and, you know, fix things. That's what it feels like sitting here. Big show today. What would you think about roadside tests for marijuana use for those driving automobiles? State Senator Rick Jones says it's close. Plus, he says that Michigan could get in the business of growing marijuana. We'll talk about that today. We'll have Congressman Tim Walberg here and a whole lot more. But I start with this because this really, I think, is a clear symptom of the sickness of America. And then that is the faux victims. These faux victims in places like Missouri and Yale. Privileged children, many of whom come from wealthy families, have full ride scholarships and other things that others only dream about. You know, these privileged students that won't graduate with $100,000 in debt because their bills were taken care of, while they point the finger at other ills of society, things that they know nothing about because they've never paid a mortgage or made payroll for other people running a business or tried to raise a family or, quite frankly, at the age of 20, 19, or 18, done anything of importance in their life yet. They have done nothing of importance in their life to this point, and they want to sit around, wag their fingers at the rest of us, and tell us how to conduct ourselves. I personally will pass on their advice. But you'll find this interesting. Following the forced resignation of its president and the attack on student journalists, by journalism professors, I might add, at the University of Missouri, protest escalated even further in absurdly hysterical ways. Students went crazy on campus after it was reported that the Ku Klux Klan was roaming around, throwing bricks through windows, and students needed to hide. Peyton Head, a student at the University of Missouri, sent this tweet out Students, please take precautions. Stay away from the windows in residence halls. The KKK has been confirmed to be sighted on campus. I'm working with the MUPD, the state troopers, and the National Guard. Problem is he lied. You see, the problem is he lied. And now he's gone back and admitted that he lied. There's no evidence of the Klan on campus. None whatsoever, said police spokesman Brian Weimer. Not only that, but despite Head's claim to be working with the National Guard, Weimer said the Guard was not present at the university at all. Why would they be? You know, this whole notion of, oh, look, it's a bunch of white people with hoods on. Here's the thing. Mr. Head should be terminated from school because there is no question that if somebody makes a reference derogatory or uses racial epithets for black people or Hispanic people, they will be terminated from school, as they should be if they're going to be outright, hostile to others. But I would say saying that the Klan is roaming campus throwing bricks through windows is creating an outright hostile environment, and that kid should be sent home permanently. Meanwhile, if you're offended at the University of Missouri, I told you this yesterday, but if you missed it, here it is again. From the MU Police, which is the University Police there at Missouri, to continue to ensure that the University of Missouri campus remains safe, the MU Police Department, MUPD, is asking individuals who witness incidents of hateful and or hurtful speech or actions to call the police immediately, and they give a couple of numbers there, or dial 911. Give the communications operator a summary of the incident, including location. Provide a detailed description of the individuals involved. Provide a license plate and vehicle descriptions. If possible, and if it can be done safely, take a photo of the individuals with your cell phone. My God, if anybody disagrees with you out there, you call the police right now. If they have an opinion that doesn't match yours exactly, you call 911 right now. If you feel offended or your feelings are hurt, you jump up and you declare, you cannot hurt my feelings. I am calling 911, and the thought police will be right here. Delays, including posting information to social media, can often reduce the chance of identifying the responsible parties, says the police as they go on. While cases, they do say this. But my friends, it's already too dangerous. This barn door is wide open right now. We need to push it shut and hammer it closed and bolt it permanently. While cases of hateful and hurtful speech are not crimes, if the individuals identified are students, MU's Office of Student Conduct can take disciplinary action. If you're offended by anybody on campus, damn it, we can get them thrown out of school. If they say something you don't agree with, if they say something that doesn't line up with your liberal, socialist, Marxist views, damn it, we're going to chase them down. You get their phone number. You get their license plate. We're going to throw them out of school because white people don't even belong in college. Please. This is the most anti-productive garbage in history. It's called freedom of speech, the free exchange of ideas. And if you're going to be offended, change the radio station now. It's the Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
I've got to run to keep from and I'm bound to keep on.
All righty. Well, today's weather with all this wind gusts reaching 65 miles an hour, potentially possibly higher. This has never happened in Michigan before. We've never had wind before. It's going to come with snow, and there's never been the combination of wind and snow before in Michigan. This is all clearly a product of climate change, and so I want you to be aware that the wind today is a result of you driving in your car. Make no mistake, it's a result of you driving that SUV. And primarily it's the fault that you're an American, and so it's your fault that it's windy today. Because if you hadn't been an American and you hadn't driven your car, clearly these extreme weather conditions wouldn't exist. Speaking of extremists, Al Gore. You remember him? I know. You tried to forget. Me too. Al Gore, the former vice president and the man who has made tens of millions of dollars scaring the pants off of people, talking about climate change, even when the science doesn't support it, is working hard for the government to be in control of everything. He's working hard to, put restrictions on everyone around the world. That'll happen at the International Conference in Paris coming up here at the end of the month. Al Gore believes that they can get government control of everything when it comes to using this ruse of climate change. Go ahead and roll it.
The impact of climate-related extreme weather events is now driving home the reality of the climate crisis in a way that scientific predictions did not. Every night on the television news is like a nature hike through the book of Revelation.
Oh, for God's
The number
sake,
of
stop.
extremely
It's like a nature hike through the book of Revelations. What does this guy smoke, for God's sake? Go on.
hot days has multiplied dramatically. The large downpours, floods, mudslides.
Hold on, stop. We had, one day? Was it one day over 90 or two this year in the upper Midwest? One last year, 0 the year before. Yeah, these 90-degree heat wave days are just really intense. The number of days in Texas and Mississippi and Florida are below average for the last, and maybe it's just America. Maybe we just we don't have the impact of climate change. Go.
Deeper and longer droughts, rising sea levels from the melting ice, forest fires, and increasingly people are connecting those dots.
Stop right there. There was a prediction put out in 2007 about rising sea levels and the number of people that were going to be impacted around the world, hundreds of millions. And they highlighted places that were going to be the most susceptible to these places in Burma and India and Asia where the sea levels were going to rise. You know what's happened in the last decade? Those places have increased in population many times because more people are flocking to those places. People aren't leaving. More are actually coming. But hey, Al, you believe whatever facts you want. But believe me, this is easy to document. This isn't even... You don't even break a sweat trying to find this information. Just go look at the internet for the worst predictions of global warming. Okay, go ahead.
Even if they don't use the phrase climate crisis or global warming, more and more people are feeling that this is going to have to be addressed. So damage has been done, and we have to understand that. But we still have an opportunity to slow down and potentially even avoid the irreversible destruction of some of the other large ice sheets. And it matters a lot how long we can delay this. I'm optimistic. It's not a forced optimism. I'm really excited that we are winning this, but my optimism is tempered with continuing concern that we do need to move faster because the problem is still getting worse. We're gaining on it, but we need to really move faster.
Stop. First of all, I want to say something that's really scary for you. He could have been president. Yeah, let me give you, kids in Europe won't even know what snow is by 2015. Supposed to happen years ago. We wouldn't even have any snow. Due to global warming, the coming winters in local regions will become much milder. 2010 from the University of Potsdam. The new Germany will be characterized by dry, hot summers and warm, wet winters, except that they got buried in snow the last several. Clear climate trends are seen from the computer simulations. Foremost, the winter months will be warmer all over Germany, depending on CO2 emissions. Temperatures will rise at least 4 degrees Celsius in the Alps, up to 5 degrees Celsius. That'll happen soon. That was said in 2009. In summer, under certain conditions, the scientists will reckon with a complete melting of the Arctic sea ice. For Europe, we expect an increase in drier, warmer summers. Winters, on the other hand, will be warmer and wetter. And these, more failed predictions. You got some more Al Gore for me? Let's go with it. No, that's the end of it. All right. Well, thank God. Let me see. What else do we have here? The fact that 200 million people will be in famine by 2010 because of global warming. Are there 200 million people on the planet in famine right now because of global warming? Let's see here. Goodbye, winter. In the northern hemisphere, the deviations are much greater according to NOAA calculations. That has consequences. When the snow line rises over large areas, the bare ground is warmed even more by sunlight. It goes on and on and on. I mean, there's one failed prediction after another. One failed hysterical prediction of death and destruction and carnage for the human race. Millions will be in starvation and famine because of droughts and so forth. Millions and millions will be displaced from their homes because of rising ocean levels. And sorry, boys and girls, but it hasn't happened. You know, the islands of the Pacific are supposed to be underwater. And if climate change was such a big deal, why would the Chinese be building new islands in the South Pacific that are barely above sea level to put their large military airstrips on? Do you think the Chinese buy global warming, or they're just not too smart, the Chinese, to build these big airstrips on man-made islands in the South Pacific? I don't know. Maybe Al Gore's just smarter than they are. It's a Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the doo-dah.
All right, welcome back to it. Most of the focus when it comes to driving lately has been, has been focused on the road funding debate, the debate that's now over, but we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out because a lot of people not happy about the whole situation. But another thing that I don't like and folks don't like, these cameras, red light cameras and so forth, to give people tickets. Ann Schieber here, Senior Investigative Analyst for the Mackinac Center. Ann, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve. It's always fun to be here.
I appreciate it. It's a windy day, a good day to be inside, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It must have been about 1999. I was working for NBC News, and I was in the headquarters of the Columbus, Ohio Police Department, which is a massive department, by the way, 1,800 officers and so forth, big police department. And they had just unveiled their brand new state-of-the-art camera system that was spread out all across Metro Columbus. Cameras everywhere. And they said, well, these are just for traffic control and so on and so forth. And yet, the guy that was giving me the demonstration that day showed me how he could take somebody, he's looking at somebody stopped at a red light somewhere in Columbus. He could zoom right in on them, right in to see basically what they're holding in their hand and see it clearly. At remote control, move the camera around, zoom in, look around. And I'm like, this is for traffic control. I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. You know, is it really?
Well, that's right. The more you learn, you discover that these devices are really designed for revenue collection, not necessarily traffic safety. And they've been a problem in a number of states. There are countless stories on the Internet, media excerpts describing how people are caught in this dragnet. And it happens at red lights, and it happens on highways, getting people for speed or violating commuter lane restrictions. And in Michigan, we've been pretty fortunate. We've had some open-minded legislators who've resisted the heavy lobbying that the companies who make these devices do to get them to be part of traffic safety enforcement. And but that's not always the case, and so that's why this particular bill came up in the last week during the discussion of road funding, because, again, that idea might be enticing to some lawmakers as this being a way to fund fixing potholes.
Well, RoboCop is a different sort of thing than the movie showed. See, RoboCop are these cameras, and, you know, there's another device that is used here in Michigan extensively now, which is the breathalyzer that's attached to your vehicle for people that have had DUIs, right? Which in and of itself is fine. But when I had an acquaintance of mine go through this ordeal, I learned that the people that are overseeing the application of that device is the company that sells the device to the state of Michigan. And they found this gentleman in violation a couple of times when he clearly wasn't, which means he has to start all over, which means he has to pay for their machine again and stay on there, keep paying them. So you get into situations like that where the companies, like you said, have lobbyists that promote these devices to be used. And I think that they have a conflict of interest, it's fair to say.
Oh, absolutely. And in the case of traffic lights, they are very expensive. Cities will lease these things. I don't know, I've heard figures of $5,000 a month. And to pay for them, they actually have to write tickets. And so in some cases, you have them reducing yellow light time, for example, and purposely causing people to run the red light so that they can write them a ticket.
Well, that would be a public safety issue. If you're reducing the amount of time the light is yellow, that's making it more dangerous for all the drivers.
Oh, absolutely. And there's been work on that. People have looked at the crash data involving red light cameras, and there are instances where people slam on their brakes and actually cause a crash.
Yeah, that's a terrible. We're on the line with Ann Schieber this morning, Senior Investigative Analyst for the Mackinac Center. All right, I mean, here's my opinion of it is this, Ann. If I'm to be caught, you need to catch me fair and square. Yeah, I mean, that's the deal. If I'm going to speed, or if I'm going to push a red light that's not quite red but it's hot pink, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to get somewhere. If you're going to catch me, you got to catch me fair and square and catch me in the act. If my hand is not in the cookie jar, in my world, I am still not guilty. I'm not saying I'm innocent, but I am not guilty.
Well, it's two-pronged. You also have to have traffic safety laws that reflect normal driving behavior. So it's not enough that you get somebody to actually see you and catch you and write you the legitimate way. But you need to have traffic safety speed limits and red light times reflecting the normal behavior of the normal behavior of drivers.
Let me ask you something right there. I mean, okay, we touched on this a little bit. You say shortening the length of the yellow light and so forth. Is there not a uniform standard for how long a light is red, green, or yellow? Is there not a standard amount of time, or does it vary? I mean, I've been to some intersections where I thought I was going to reach retirement age before the light turned green again. You've been there. Are you sitting in your car for,
Oh, absolutely. It's 8 seconds, which sounds like a short amount of time, but there have been cases where the red-yellow light time has been reduced to 3 seconds. When you're driving at 40 miles an hour, that is an eternity. And so they've even discovered if traffic safety were the interest, red light running, they wanted to eliminate that altogether, they could easily do that by extending the yellow light time. And people actually do abide by, they don't get caught in the red lights. It's when you shorten the yellow light time that obviously you're going to get somebody who's going to, run the light.
I have a better idea, Ann. How about this? How about we put smart chips in the car? And if you run the red light, then they can reach out and automatically shut your car down and have it impounded until you pay for it to get it back. See, that way we could really get some cash flowing around here.
I'll tell you what. There's some places, you drive out east where they have some real fiscal problems. You see traffic cameras all over the place. I'm from New Jersey. I go out there and visit occasionally, and I see them almost on every intersection, it seems.
Sure.
And, it's I have friends who've been sent tickets on these things, didn't realize they were doing anything wrong.
No, I got a speeding ticket in, I guess it would have been Illinois or Wisconsin a year ago. I'd driven out west to go out on vacation in one of those states, and we were home for a couple of weeks, my wife and I opened the mailbox, and there was a letter with a photograph of the car, and they wrote me for a speeding ticket for 10 over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and find that, but I was written a speeding ticket with a photograph of my car. That just occurred to me. I forgot that, and I think
I got to tell you, this bill that's floating before the legislature will restrict that from happening in Michigan. So if you get a ticket from, it's the points, really. It's not just the fine. It's the points on your license, because the insurance companies will surcharge you that. And it's not just the $100, but it's perhaps the $300 or $400 you got to pay extra for the next 3 years in your insurance premiums. And so what this new bill will do is not only codify the fact that we shouldn't have red light cameras or traffic cameras, but it will prohibit the Secretary of State from calculating points that are gained in other states from red light cameras.
Right, and that's extremely important, because if you're in New Jersey, driving like people in New Jersey do, or you're just visiting like you do, I'm just, what did I say? Is that offensive to people in New Jersey? I'm just joking. Anyhow, the point being is if you get a ticket in New Jersey, it's wrong.
We're used to it, and a lot of it's some of it's deserved.
Well, I've been to Newark. Some of it is deserved. And I greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here as always. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
There you have it, everybody. Ann Schieber from the Mackinac Center. She is the senior investigative analyst. And I think that she's right. We don't need red light cameras, and you don't need to get speeding tickets in the mail from some electronic RoboCop. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Thursday.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
All right, everybody remembers Kate Steinle, killed in San Francisco earlier this year by an illegal alien. Do you guys remember Luis Enrique Monre Bracamonte's background? He also was an illegal alien here last year. He went on a killing rampage, killed 2 California sheriff's deputies, critically wounded another woman. You know, in California, if they just don't get it, I don't understand it. You know, that's just the way it is. In Germany, they're on the verge of civil war with this rush of illegals into their country that have stormed through from Syria and so forth. In Calais, in France, clashes breaking out between police and refugees, many of them there living illegally. And this is what we're facing. Here in this country, open borders and amnesty is what some call the biggest pile of cronyism of all time. Seton Motley here, president of Less Government. Seton, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Isn't diversity great?
Well, it is, actually, and this country was built on diversity, but that's my definition,
No,
and the American
actually,
definition.
It wasn't.
And the American definition of diversity is a good thing, you know, coming from all over the world. But what we have here, this is not diversity. This is we've trashed the laws. We've taken our laws and thrown them in the trash. We don't vet anybody. We don't examine anybody. We don't look into their background, give them health checks. There's nothing wrong with our immigration system.
The 1965 immigration law was horrible and needs to be wholly repealed. For people who don't know this, we didn't even have any immigration between 1929, I think, and 1965. There was none. Zero. We weren't allowing anyone in. And in fact, Truman and then Eisenhower ejected millions of illegal aliens because what happened was they had a program, and I forget what it's called, where they let workers in because we were short of workers because of World War II. And then afterwards, it was way, of course, abused, and it was way over. There were too many people that came in. And Truman and then Eisenhower, with successive efforts, expelled about 6 million of them. And that's back in the 40s and 50s.
Well, Herbert Hoover, at the front end of the Great Depression, he also threw people out because he said you had to make way for American jobs. Truman did the same thing. Eisenhower did the same thing. I don't know what the program was to have them in, but unfortunately the program to throw them out today wouldn't fly. It was called Project Wetback.
We can't use the name, but the concept is still good.
Yeah,
it's just Rubio was assaulted by the Wall Street Journal last week for being in favor of a certain out for the sugar program we've got. And don't get me wrong, before we preface this, the sugar program's dumb because it dates back to FDR and the New Deal, and it's dumb. But as far as cronyism goes, it's pretty minor. I mean, since 2002, it's only cost us money 1 year. And what Rubio wants to do is not just throw it away, but because we've had it so long, it's polluted the rest of the global market. So he wants to sit down with other sugar countries and say, hey, Brazil, you get rid of your tariff, we'll get rid of our tariff. You get rid of your subsidy, we'll get rid of our subsidy. And that makes sense to me. Anyway, I'm a free trader. I want to free up the global market.
Well, Seton, let me ask you this. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is important because, I catch a lot of heat here from people when I say that Rubio looks like a pretty decent candidate overall. And, those on the extreme right go berserk. Well, you are the president of Less Government. I wouldn't exactly say you're a liberal. And people go crazy and say, well, he's horrible. He wants amnesty and he wants this and he wants that. And I'm like, hold on, guys. The guy is allowed to, have some things that he's not exactly right about in your column, isn't
Well, this attacking my point with my column on Monday was how can you attack him as the face of cronyism for this tiny little sugar bill, and then be, as the Wall Street Journal is, be for completely wide open borders and unfettered amnesty. which is a giant giveaway to big business hirers all over the place because they get to outsource and offload the life costs of their employees onto taxpayers. And that'll cost us a whole lot more money every year than the sugar program does every year combined. So that was my point. And remember, Rubio, I understand what some of your critics are saying about Rubio, because he was part of the Gang of Eight. He was Schumer's go-to Republican on amnesty. He's moved away from that position. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he learned his lesson. But my point of the article was, how on earth can you criticize it for cronyism? You know, I think I finished with Matthew 7:3 from the Bible. How can you criticize a speck in his eye when you got a log in yours, Wall Street Journal?
Well, then fair enough. So here's my question. Is Marco Rubio conservative enough for an organization like yours?
I am cautiously skeptical of his amnesty position because to me, that's the fundamental issue because it affects every other economic issue and every government issue.
But let me ask you this. I'll take it a step further. If Marco Rubio were to be elected president, would it even be relevant, his amnesty position? Because he would never get it started in a fully Republican Senate and a fully Republican House of Representatives. Because if Rubio becomes president, he's coming in with more Republicans. And so his chance at so-called amnesty would never happen. And by the way, by those measures, Ronald Reagan wouldn't be elected today either. He signed amnesty. He signed anti-gun legislation. Yeah, he signed anti-gun legislation, a lot of other things. Ronald Reagan wouldn't even get a pass today. Keep that in mind, boys and girls.
That's completely false. He was Tea Party before Tea Party was Tea Party. He ran against a sitting Republican president in the primary.
Yeah, that's true.
If that ain't Tea Party, I don't know what is.
And he also supported the Brady Bill and signed gun control legislation in the state of California before running for president. Facts are facts. There is no perfect candidate.
You have to prioritize issues, and I think amnesty is bigger than dumb gun control bills that he signed.
I think there are people listening right now that might not agree with that point of view. I might be one of them.
Well, that's because they prioritize the issues differently, and they're perfectly fine to do that. I think every gun control law is inherently stupid because you're passing laws to affect the behavior of criminals.
Right. My point is
and that's completely ridiculous.
My bottom line point on this conversation is this: there is no perfect candidate. There is no perfect candidate that's going to line up with everything that you want and everything you believe. I think that's fair to say, Seton.
Oh, and listen, and let me close with this.
Real quick.
Rubio has a 93% conservative rating. That's pretty darn good.
I would say. 52 at the hour. Seton Motley, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back to it. Quickly to the hotline. Now, by the way, that number is 888-900-9966. Brian on the line in a windy southern Michigan today. Brian, welcome to it.
Morning. I'm like Santa Claus today, delivering the packages.
Yeah, don't let them blow away.
I would vote for Betsy the cow before I would vote for Hillary Clinton, because you know when Betsy the cow opens up her mouth, you know she's not going to lie to you, and you know that she is utterly delicious. But that being said, I was watching the debate the other day, and I think that Marco Rubio performed splendidly. He reminded me of a young John F. Kennedy. He took control of the situation, and I was really impressed.
Well, there you go. But I'm going to tell you, I've got detractors, on the right that say, well, that amnesty thing. And like Seton Motley just pointed out, he has a 93% conservative rating. 93% conservative rating. And that's right. Just not good enough unless he's at 100%. And, come on, people.
Well, Steve, he came from the Tea Party. So, the Tea Party is doing something in this country. They're encouraging more conservative beliefs than liberal beliefs.
Oh, so Brian, that's you're misguided. Occupy Wall Street is clearly the machine of political, upper mobility. Yeah.
Whoever.
I couldn't help myself.
Anyways, have a good.
All right, Brian, keep delivering the packages. Keep your head down. It is breezy, to say the least, out there. It's pretty Pretty much, let's see, wind gusts could reach 65 miles per hour here in Michigan today. Could be higher in some places. From about Grand Rapids to Lansing to Jackson, there's a triangle, basically, where the strongest weather is going to be. You could see some snow mixed in there farther to the north, maybe even down here, who knows. To the west of us, heavy snow out in the Plains states and into the Rocky Mountains in some areas. It's global climate change, or it's what we've called around here for years and years, winter. It's Thursday on the Steve Gruber Show.